again, at the last academic stress committee meeting, we were asked to look at the plan to find out, or to make recommendations on how to prioritize, or if the plan is appropriate, what to add, what to remove. And we took a long look at the plan, and along with the commission, we agreed to focus on 6 themes. The district over the summer did a great job of combining the number of plans that we had as a district, our own strategic plan, the academic recovery plan, and the OIP. And again, this is our strategic plan, so we blended it into one nice document, but when you look at the document, it's pretty overwhelming. There are a lot of initiatives, and again, to try to start all those different initiatives at the same time is a little overwhelming and quite frankly unrealistic. So what we did was we organized all those goals into 6 themes. And anyone who understands change, typically you focus on 1 or 2 goals. We decided to go with 6 because there's not a lot of overlap with some of the goals, and I think you'll hear that as I go through. The goals are aimed at different groups of people within the district, so we're not overwhelming any one group. And toward the end, I'll introduce Bill Holey's going to come up and talk about how we're going to proceed with the plans to make sure we're monitoring them appropriately and providing the professional development we need, and when is it appropriate to introduce another initiative. But the 6 initiatives, and I'm going to have the people who are chairing those committees come up and speak in a second, but I want to briefly introduce what they are and what they mean. The first one is professional learning communities. And if you had all the educational gurus in the room together, the one thing they would agree on is that this initiative will have a major impact on student achievement. And for us, that's the teacher-based teams where teachers, the similar 3rd grade teachers, or talk about curriculum, talk about what they're doing in classrooms to improve instruction. So the teachers are grouped by their level of expertise and what they actually teach. So high school science teachers would be together, and 8th grade math teachers would be together. And again, sit down and talk about instruction. They share their personal data with the building leadership team, who share with the district leadership team, and the district leadership team looks at best practices and how to help the teachers in the classroom. So the information flows up and down to make sure that we're communicating as a district. These are no particular order. Number 2 is standards and pacing guides. And the standards are assessing to make sure we're teaching what we're supposed to be teaching. And the pacing guides assures that we're teaching them at the appropriate pace to make sure we get everything into the school year. It also addresses the issues of the fact that we have a very transient community. And if I'm a 2nd grade student in one part of town, and halfway through the year I move to a different part of town, I'm pretty much picking up where I left off at the other building because we're all teaching the same thing at roughly the same pace. Number 3, staff recognition was an issue. It's been identified as an issue in the district. And we want to make sure that we recognize we have a lot of great people here and doing a lot of great things, going above and beyond. And we need to do a better job of not only communicating that, but also with the community, but also with the teachers and the support staff and the administrators that are doing it. We also, we're going to do stay interviews as part of that. And a stay interview, most people understand exit interview. As you leave the business, they pull you in, you talk about things, what you like, what didn't you like. We're identifying quality people, and we're going to meet with them to find out why they chose to stay. And again, I think one of the things that's impressed me the most in Lorain is the fact that time's tough. Obviously, the commission's here for a reason, and a lot of scrutiny. Everyone's looking over our shoulder. Everyone's critical, and people can leave. I mean, very talented people chose to stay in this district and continue on to make sure things are better. So we want to find out why. What is it about Lorain City Schools that made you want to stay? And then we're going to focus on doing more of that because it's obviously good stuff. Communications, community engagement is another piece. Obviously, there's a lot of good things happening. As I said, we want to share with the community, make sure that we engage our community. This is not something, and when I say this, I mean improve student achievement is not something we can do on our own. We need our community to be involved with that, and we'll talk about where we are with that in a couple seconds. Cultural competency. We need to make sure that the staff members in our district, teachers, support staff, leadership, has the skill sets needed to work with the specific demographics of the students we serve. So again, we'll assess where we are and again figure out how to improve. And number 6, our graduation rate is not what it should be and it's not what it will be. But it's not just getting the credits necessary and passing the tests necessary to graduate. We expect more than that. We want to make sure that our students, when they graduate, they're ready for whatever comes next. So it's not just graduation and we back off and we're successful. We're successful if our students graduate and they're ready for college or they're ready for a career based on what they want to do. And again, our job is to get them there. So what I would like to do is introduce the different members of the committee and have them come up and give the commission an update on where we are. And I would like for this to be part, it's a meeting we have once a week, and it's a meeting that, or the information that we share is what I'd like to share with the commission in our meetings. Okay, I got to start with professional learning communities. Bill Oley.
Good morning. I'd like to provide you with an update on the professional learning communities and what has taken place since the last Academic Distress Commission meeting. Our goals going into September were to communicate the district leadership plan and develop building leadership plans in each of our buildings. We also wanted to embed a system of support for each building so that they had a critical friend or a guide on the side, and to review and revise the building leadership team plans. So the actions that have taken place against those goals are, on August 17th and 18th, we opened school with professional development, and we talked about the Lorain cornerstones for success, and we rolled out our district leadership team plan. From August 18th through September 11th, the building leadership teams in each one of the buildings looked at the goals. There were two overarching goals, one for achievement and one for culture climate. And they started to build their action steps on what was going to take place in their buildings. On September 10th, there was a district leadership team agenda planning meeting. And at the table, we had district representation, the state support team, and academic monitors. On September 16th, there was a district action plan, PLC, professional learning community, which acts as our steering committee. And on September 24th, yesterday, we held our district leadership team meeting. So in your packet in the back is the first page of the agenda. And I just want to walk through with you what we did yesterday with the team that was there. We reflected on the DLT process. We introduced the Lorain Academic Distress Commission response team themes and priorities that Dr. Graham just spoke of. We shared with the team the alignment of the academic recovery plan and how it relates to the Ohio improvement process, as well as the 6 themes. We also reviewed the 100-day plans. We did a walkthrough of the OIP, Ohio Improvement Process documents. There are placemats that were used to communicate the overall goals. We also have a district leadership team to BLT reporting system this year that we didn't have last year. And that will also work in the buildings where we gave a medium or a form for the building leadership team to also provide feedback to the teacher-based teams. Again, we assigned critical friends to each BLT team to work off-site in a breakout session. So if you were a building team, which would be a principal and one teacher at the meeting, they received a folder, and inside their folder was the building plan that they developed prior to the meeting. And there was feedback in there for each of them so that they could go back, revisit, rethink, and look at their action steps. And the teams also completed the Ohio implementation rubric so that we could take a look at where we are with teaming. And that's a data collection point for the fall. We'll do it again in the winter, and we'll do it again in the spring to see how we're progressing. And then we reconvene to discuss and adopt a few data monitoring calendar, one data monitoring calendar for the district. Also in your packet is the academic recovery plan. It's a similar document to the same one that you received at the last meeting, but I want to draw your attention to the last page. All of the components of the academic recovery plan are in the first column. Off to the right, you'll see that there's an OIP alignment, and there's also a 6 theme or priority alignment. So the letters that are in that first column, there's a key at the bottom that talks about the six themes. 45% alignment and 49% alignment. So overall, these two components represent about 60. They represent 66% of the academic recovery plan.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Early. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Becerra, Mrs. Diggity, to discuss standards and basic guides.
All right, good morning. Dialogue on alignment with standards and pacing guides began initially in August with myself and academic monitor Tim Jenkins, and Mick Becerra and Bernie Burchett met on the secondary level. From that meeting, we all decided let's meet as a group, basically talk about where we are at both different levels. So we came in with an assumption, and from several lengthy dialogues, this assumption turned into, we found out that we were building-wide, grade level-wide, teacher-wide, secondary level-wide, subject level-wide. We were all on different levels on a measurement stick, going anywhere from just implementation, actually from not doing it to implementation to, well, it's up there for compliance, and then with some that are really gung-ho and are following that process. So from that, we decided as a group that we would do a needs assessment, do a survey, and to gauge where exactly the teachers were, include the principals, and see where we were on this measurement stick. So we met with the Educational Service Center, ESC, Mark Irwin, and then we also touched base with Janet McLugridge, who is from the State Support Team, Region 2. And through both of their efforts, they were shared with us some pieces and parts that they had done with other school districts. Last night, Janet from the Educational or State Support Team sent us a list of her questions. And I'm just going to read you one of the questions just so you can get a flavor of what one of these questions looks like. But one of the questions was student learning targets need to be, and then there's a blank. A, directly copied from the state standards. B, written in teacher-friendly language derived from the state standards. Written in student-friendly language derived from the state standards developed by the teacher based on teachers' needs. So this is kind of the exact questions we're looking at, so we could actually see where are they with their understanding of standards and pacing guides. So then we met, we had a pre-planning PD, and from that pre-planning PD, secondary met with the team and elementary met with the team. And from that meeting, I'll speak on the elementary, and then Mick will share the secondary piece. And from that meeting, the elementary, very excited committee. They themselves, teachers were on this committee. They themselves representing several buildings said, yes, we agree. We all are on different levels, from college to college, school to school. So from that, once we get the responses back from the survey, we'll introduce that piece first when we have our PD day. We're going to devote the morning for just deconstructing of standards, and we'll go over the survey results. The team is going to ask that each of the teachers, and we're going to meet by grade level, bring in where we are in the next unit of study in the pacing guide, so everybody's using the same materials. From that, we're going to create a template to follow as far as what deconstructing a standard. What's the standard? What's the clear learning targets? What's the power verbs? What's the content vocabulary? So, and work as grade level team, small breakout sessions. So we were going to have principals lead, coaches lead, and then we came up with, we do have teachers in the district who are gurus with that. We're going to bring them in and also have them help facilitate this. So our goal on that PD day is actually to hopefully that they'll leave with an understanding and a mastery of what a standard is and how that those pieces and parts are in the pacing guide.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mick Becerra, Assistant Superintendent, and I oversee secondary education. Just to be very brief on the comments about professional development at the secondary level, October 19th is our first really big district professional development sessions prior, except for the one that we had in August. And so, working with Bernie at the secondary level, there may have been a concern that our secondary teachers may not have the foundational knowledge of standards that we would like. and it's no fault of their own. I think what has happened in the past, our initiatives have come top down to the buildings. And so we need to start meeting individual school buildings at the needs that they need, their staff need. And so we developed a plan. I will tell you, each middle school, high school, and the annex building each have their own professional development plans for the 19th. And every building has at least one component that's looking at standards, and we are focusing on the high school, specifically on the foundational knowledge of standards. And so we will continue to make that promise and pledge to our buildings. We will meet the teachers' needs where they are at and provide appropriate professional development sessions. Now, I also chair the graduation committee, which is one of the 6. So I'm the transition person to the second half of the 6. And so what we did, we have met with the high school, credit recovery, and New Beginnings academies to focus on that 10% goal that we have for this year. And we've implemented, well, at first we thought we had, I had a hypothesis that possible credits were a stumbling block for our students to not graduate. Actually, what we found out that it truly is the OGT, passing the Ohio graduation test. And so we have implemented a 30-day plan. Our teachers have a 30-day plan to get our students prepared 30 days out from the OGT, which is occurring now. Also, we are setting up after-school tutoring for all of our students. And one of the biggest pieces in our community, if our students stay after school, they don't have transportation home. And so we are going to provide busing for those students. In addition, we are identifying students who may only need 1 or 2 credits to graduate. They are not coming to the school because state minimum is 5 credit hours, and many of us know that. So I think in their mind, a student is arguing, why would I show up for 5 hours when I only need 2 credits and I don't have a way there? And so we are looking at, can we shorten their day? And the biggest piece to that would be, we would provide busing. So they would get here, do their 2 credits, and then we would bus them home where they don't have to stay the entire school day. And so those are ideas that we're looking at. And the last piece that we are just kind of investigating is some type of mentoring program. Right now, this year, it would be only for the seniors, where seniors who are in jeopardy of not graduating, we would pair them with a mentor that would truly follow them through the rest of the school year. They would meet with them, encourage them, and then after our seniors, then we would backfill it to the juniors, to the sophomores, just to have our students who are in jeopardy having someone walk that path with them. And that's graduation. Thank you.
Again, I think hopefully the theme you're seeing in terms of what's being presented is the fact that we're identifying needs and we're meeting them. And when you hear some of the graduation rate pieces in particular, you think we're making things easier for kids. We are. Our goal is to help them graduate, and every student has their own particular set of needs, and it's our job to meet them. So again, we're doing what we need to do. Next one, cultural competency. Dr. Sturley.
Good morning, and Mr. Ramos, I'm an Army guy, so I live off of 3-letter acronyms. So poor Bill, who I also work with on the PLCs, and that's probably my fault for the 3-letter acronyms, so let's know. I am charged with cultural competency, and I started out by doing a lot of research, finding the school districts who are doing this very well and are doing it right. And 2 things came out of it. One, the school districts had a great action plan of how they were implementing training and professional development in the area of cultural competency. And 2 is they developed a council for cultural competency, around 25 to 30 members who met either quarterly or monthly to talk about how it's working in the school district and also the needs of the school district. So in doing that, I started to develop an action plan and also started to develop membership for this cultural competency. In doing so, I have 5 co-chairs right now who are steering the cultural competency. Ms. Egby is one of them. I also have Jay Nemeny, who's part of Gear Up, but he has a great connection to the community and also with wraparound services. I have Michael Scott, who's principal of Johnny Wilson, who also has a great connection with our community and staff. And I have a teacher, Miss Nettles, who actually was very excited to be part of this co-chair and is helping me lead this process as we build our Council for Cultural Competency. So in doing so, right now I have 26 members of this council. And I want to say that we have a very diverse staff, which I'm pretty excited about. We have 5 central office members, we have 5 building level administrators, but our staff is very diverse. I have EOLs teachers, I have gifted teachers, I have fine arts teachers. So it's very, very diverse in what we need to actually implement this council for cultural competency. But I'm also glad to say right now I have 6 community members, and I'm looking for more. But I also have representation from the City Council of Lorain, Lorain NAACP, the Urban League, El Centro, and also Lorain Public Library. So in doing so, I think I have a great amount of representation from our community to be part of this council. And also, working with Qualia, we've had several phone calls, Meg, Dr. Graham and I, and how Qualia fits into cultural competency. So we're also researching, working with Susan Ema, Mr. Corso, and Brian Connolly, and how Qualia fits into this professional development and training for our school district. We have our first meeting for cultural competency on October 7th from 4 to 6. And if anybody else would like to join this council, I'm very excited to say that we do have room for everybody that wants to join.
Thank you, Dr. Sturgill. And staff recognition? Ms. Counseling?
I'm Carol Gottschling, Executive Director of Human Resources for the district. And we are very excited about developing a staff recognition plan for the district. We really want to recognize, as Dr. Graham has mentioned, the great staff members of Lorain City Schools for their hard work and going that extra mile. So what we're doing is putting together a committee, and the committee involves teachers, parents, administrators, support staff, and we'll be reaching out to involve students at a later point in the process to build the staff recognition plan. And in the plan, we want to recognize all types of staff. We want to recognize teachers, support staff, administrative staff, everyone in the district. So far, we've had a planning meeting, which included myself, Aaron Gadd, and Mark, as to set up some parameters on that, and that was on September 4th, 2015. And we brainstormed committee makeup, reviewed and discussed prior district staff recognition plans, discussed the incorporation of student involvement and how we would get the students involved from the building levels. And we also followed up, reached out to other districts to find out what they are doing in terms of staff recognition. Our first official committee meeting was Wednesday, September 16th. And at that point, the committee discussed the purpose of the committee. We discussed the goals of the committee, brainstormed timelines and frequencies of the awards, and really put our heads together to create questions for a survey to go out to the staff to analyze how does our staff want to be recognized as part of a district-wide staff recognition committee. So this week, the committee has been reviewing our proposed survey questions that we put together as a result of the meeting last Wednesday. And we have our questions together, and our survey is going to go out today, this afternoon. It's about 7 questions. It's brief. We don't want too long of a survey or you get a little less participation. But 7 questions, just get a feel for what does the staff want in terms of recognition. And our next committee meeting will be next Thursday, October 1st, where we'll be looking at the results of that survey and then really getting into the meat of developing the staff recognition plan with the staff's input in mind. Dr. Graham also mentioned stay interviews in opposite of exit interviews. So I'm creating a subcommittee to really create the process of the stay interviews, what we want to ask, how we ask, how random is the process? Do we just, pick people randomly to answer these questions? Do we pick people who've been here a long time, new hires? Really, we want to get a feel of what is the district doing right and what we can do to continue to retain the talent that we have in the district. So there really are a lot of good things going on. So that's it for staff recognition.
Carol. And sixth but not least, Aaron Gadd on communications and community engagement.
Thanks for putting me last. I felt great pressure to hurry this right along. At this point, we're about 3 weeks in, which obviously isn't a lot of time. But, I mean, you should know that when you join this district, the first question everybody asks you is, where are you from? Because they want to make sure that you get it. Now, unfortunately, I am from Elyria, which is the big football rival to Lorain, so people have had to kind of bring me along quite a bit here. But the great thing about coming in with fresh eyes is that you see it. You see all the great things that are happening. I've worked in a lot of different districts, and I'll tell you what, you go into the classrooms, and you see these caring adults who have students who are really excited to be learning, and like that's our story. That's what we can share with our community. When you are doing a communications plan, like it always strikes me how similar it is to how you educate a child. Like first you figure out where they're at, and then you differentiate what you're sharing with them. You make sure it's very personalized, and then you measure it. You say, is this working? So that's what our communications plan is. At this point, we're in the discovery phase. We have a communication survey that's out there both internally to our staff, and right now we have 33% participation, which isn't too bad. I'm pretty happy about that. And then we have the survey out in our community as well, to make sure especially that our families are hearing exactly all the wonderful things that are happening in their schools. We have noticed in this process that we have a pretty major issue, and that is our data collection process, to make sure that we know where our families are and how to best reach them. So our buildings are being very creative in reaching out to those families and finding out, okay, what is your updated email? What's the best way to reach you? Do you want to be by text? Okay, we're going to do it by text. And we're building up all of those blockages. While we're waiting for the results from that online survey, we're doing some pretty urgent implementation. And that means using the tools that we have available to us, expanding their usage, and making sure that things are flowing. The press in this area, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It is so functional. We've had 6 major stories in the newspaper this week. Like, honestly, I'm just trying to keep up with everyone. We have the media here today, Carol Harper from the Morning Journal. She's tweeting stories out and retweeting. It's really amazing. I've worked in some different districts, and this is very special. Some preliminary data that we've been able to see from the survey is that our website, it needs quite a bit of work. But what does it need? We have developed evaluation committee, and the individuals who are on that, we have principals, we have teachers, we have our students providing input. They're our biggest stakeholders, and they're the ones who understand how we should be communicating with them. And we're building all of this up. We have a matrix of evaluative criteria, so we know, well, what's really important to us as we are continuing that improvement and looking at alternate ways of communicating. We have an RFP that is going out this week, and we're going to move pretty fast on this. In my process, I think that website should be the hub. That should have all the information that you need on it, and then you take that information out to where you know people are. Social media, in their e-newsletters, etc. Our e-newsletter started last week, and it's the superintendent's update. It's the word straight from the boss of what the progress is, of what's going on in our schools. People care about that. Our distribution started out really low, and I'll tell you what, in a week, we've almost doubled it. It's amazing. Word is getting out there. And our open rate is at 24%. 24%. The industry average is 13%. So people are really excited to get this personal message from Dr. Graham to see what's going on. Social media, we're seeing some growth in Facebook and Twitter. We started an Instagram account. Because you know and I know that, okay, you can send out words and you can tell people what's going on, but they need to see it. They need to see those videos. We're very fortunate to have TV20 in this district so people can hear the stories of the people who are making a difference in children's lives. So you can see the winning football game against Elyria. See all that. And right now we're just measuring that engagement to see if what we're doing is working, if we're having that two-way conversations with folks so that people understand and they're a part of that, so they can tell us what matters to them and so that we can respond. And as a part of that too, like, okay, so that's a lot of techie stuff, that's a lot of data, that's stuff that we can really measure, but like we are all here speaking face to face for a reason, because it's those conversations that really have any impact. impact. So that's the next big phase that we'll be working on, is getting more of that face-to-face interaction. There's a communications network that is meeting monthly. Those are our ambassadors. Those are the folks who are out there in the community. We provide them with the information of what's happening. They help to spread the word, and there's a lot of cross-pollination. So the communications vehicles that they are running, they're helping to share our messages, we're helping to share theirs, and it makes it increase exponentially. At the same time, we're having meaningful conversations with the folks who are making it happen here in the district, the chamber, the businesses, the nonprofits, over faith-based organizations, getting to know them and building relationships. Honestly, the older I get, the more I believe that relationships are like all that matters. So we're really working on that. And then the next phase is to, take all of these disparate groups of huge hearts and bring them together in one meaningful way, like a business advisory or some sort of a partnership. We haven't really factored in exactly what that's going to be called, but to help connect those caring adults in the community with the needs that are occurring in our classroom. So to help, make that network really happen and continue the good. So that's where we are 3 weeks in, and we'll be happy to keep you updated. Thank you.
And again, I'd like to thank you, obviously you got to see the people leading the committees. I'd like to thank them for their leadership, but every one of them mentioned committee. We don't put together a group of people just for the sake of gathering a meeting. We put together a group of people to listen to get different perspectives. And these committees are full of people that represent all the different stakeholder groups to make sure we get all the perspectives we need to move forward. So again, it's very inclusive, it's very purposeful, and I think we're making great strides. What we did is, again, we took the plan that the commission gave us with their own plan, and this is our strategic plan, and we're focusing on those 6 items that we believe, again, along with the commission, to be the most impactful and the most pervasive, to do the best for our students. But I think something else you heard though this morning was when they talked about how we were personalizing things. We're trying to find out exactly where people are, and which is our job, find out whether it's teachers or students, to find out exactly where they are, meet them there, and then take them to the next level. And again, the whole idea of professional development is to change adult behavior with the purpose of increasing student achievement. So again, we're trying to do all this with purpose, and I think we've made great strides in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it's been. But again, I think you'll see it happening in big chunks. Right now, we're still in the data gathering stage. So as we find out exactly where people are, we can figure out exactly what they need to get them to the next step. And as Bill only mentioned, this covers about 66% of the plan. And the question is, what about that other 34%? Because it's all good stuff. We're using a model where we're actually in the beginning stages of this, but we're not quite ready to implement it anyway. It's the Concerns-Based Adoption Model, another acronym, CBAM. And the whole idea of that is to measure the stakeholder group. For example, if it's a teacher initiative and we're expecting our teachers to do something different for professional learning communities, for example, we'll get feedback from those teachers in survey form to find out exactly where they are in terms of their level of acceptance of this. On the whole stage, the entire continuum of adopting an initiative, where am I? I just started it, or I've got it down. And once we know where our teachers are, but it's based on how they feel about it. Because when you give people too much, they can't do anything. They become paralyzed. So we want to make sure that they're far enough on that continuum before we introduce some of that other 34%. So again, I think everything we're doing is with purpose. The plan, again, is full of best practices, and we'll get it done. And I think that the phrase around central office is we're running fast. So again, we appreciate your support and guidance, and that's where we are.